The first thing you do is launch the Illustrator application. You can double click on the icon, or if you've opened up Illustrator before, you might have it handy where you can just click and open it. The first home screen you'll see gives you a few options. You can either create a new document, or if you have an existing document, you can go open. You can also choose one of these templates, and as you work in Illustrator, it will remember the different kind of files and have them available to you that you most frequently will use. I'm going to start just with creating new so you can see how that works. There are different customized templates that you can work in terms of file types, and one of the common ones is a letter. If you're looking at the points, that might be a little confusing if you're not used to working with different measurements. So what you can do is just adjust this to whichever measuring system you like. So if you're into inches, then you can set it up that way. The orientation is a couple of orientations there, the portrait or the landscape. I like working in the landscape because of the different screen resolution I have to use in order to make videos and teach on Zoom. So it really doesn't matter. There's a few other settings down here. One is color mode, and typically in this class we'll be working with RGB, which is for electronic media, anything on the screen. So that's red, green, and blue. Those are all the colors that you can use are comprised using that color model. So those three colors make up millions of colors on the screen. The resolution affects the quality of the imagery. Again, this isn't too specific right now. It's not so necessary to know or to understand. We'll go through resolution a little bit later on, but if you wanted to set, medium is fine, and that gives me 150 pixels per inch. We are working in a vector program, and it will give us a set resolution, but don't worry about that right now. So I've got my settings. I'm going to do create. And there's my new file. I'm actually going to go to get my file that I had started. And you'll see that at the top of your window, every time you have a Illustrator window open, you can see both of them and you can click back and forth between your files. So I'm going to go over a few tools and setting up your workspace. So the first thing is, if you go to your window menu, you'll see that there are there's a whole list of different windows here. And I'm going to get a couple of commonly used windows that I like to have. So I really like having my layers out. That's going to be important. And there are my layers. And there's my swatches. That's really nice for choosing colors. And you can add or take away from this swatch menu. And then there's also the stroke. So the way these menus work is you can move them around and have them separated. If I want to get rid of it, I just click on that little X. If I want to get it back, I go get it and it pops up. So I can move those around. I can also stack them, and I can create like a nice little workspace. So I could even put that one in there. And then I can navigate back and forth between them. Or if I just want to have, my layers by themselves, I can separate them and stack them that way. Another thing that you may want to explore is the workspace. And there's different kinds of workspaces available to you. I like to work with the Essentials Classic because that way I can move things around. But some people like to have this automated workspace where everything is stacked to the sides. The windows are kind of stacked down there. I don't particularly like that because I like to have the tools that I need. I like to have just a few of them out, and when I'm not using them, put them away. So you have to explore and see which workspace you like. So there's specific ones for different kinds of artwork. But I think the Essentials Classic is a good one to start with, and then you can explore these as you get more familiar with Illustrator. Okay. The selection tools are really important because essentially they allow you to move around and have control over what's active and how you can edit certain things. So the first thing I'm going to do is just put a few shapes down here just so that you can see how the selection tools work. So I've just got a few basic shapes I'm making. There's your shape tools, and those are all available to you. You'll notice that I can click on any of these and it will make a basic shape, right? Right now, I have a black stroke on my artwork and I have a white fill. So the first thing I would want to show you is just to be able to customize that. And if I want to have a black stroke, then I can do that. I can also move these back and forth. You'll see the little fist that moves, and now I have my artwork has both the blue stroke and a blue fill. You can move these so that they are dominant. So right now the stroke is in front, so that tells me that the stroke is active, and I can put on a pink fill. I can also double click on those and I can edit my colors. So if I wanted to make it a little darker, right? You can see the little thumbnail here gets updated. So that works to edit your colors that way. If I want to get rid of something, I just can make sure it's active. Anytime you want to edit something, it has to be active. So I can click on my object, I can hit delete, and it disappears. If I want to change the fill, then I just make sure the fill is forward, and I can fill it with a color like that. My stroke right now is white. If I wanted to turn it into red, then you can see that. In order to, right now I've got a very fine red stroke. If I wanted to increase that, I would just select it, and I could go up to my stroke menu at the top, and I could increase my stroke that way. I also like to work with my stroke menu from my window here. Window stroke, right? And that way I can customize it that way, and there's also a few fun things like dashed line, and depending on what your space there is, it creates a specific kind of dotted line. So your stroke is kind of a fun thing to play with. There we go. Now to edit your shapes. You'll see that there's these little target dots on all the shapes that you have, and those are kind of handy because you can edit your shape on the fly. So I can create rounded corners, right? And I can always go back to the way it was, or I can do that. So that's kind of a fun thing. I can also use my white arrow tool. So we're using our black arrow tool to move things around. That's the general selection tool. I click on it and it's active. I can move it, I can edit it, you know, the colors. If I want to work with the specific points, all right, because this is, remember, Illustrator works with these Bezier curves. We're working with line, it's all line art. So if I use my white arrow tool, I can select certain paths and certain points in my path. And you'll see that when I select it, it turns blue. When it's not selected, they're white. So I can, you know, pick a point and I can edit those lines. So I can, you know, I can just go around and there's several points there to make up my square, and so I can edit them in that kind of fashion. All right. So let's get another rectangle back there. Okay, so then the other thing that we can do is we can construct things with our pen tool. And this is a really powerful part of Illustrator. I can go get my pen tool. Remember, these are the creation tools, the pen tool, the type tool, the line tool that has a few other tools housed in it. And any of the tools that have a little triangle at the bottom right of the tool icon means there's more tools there. So you can make an arc, you can make a spiral tool. A spiral tool is really fun, right? I can increase the stroke weight. So those are kind of fun. The shapes tools, all of those shapes. The paintbrush tool, which I'll go over too. So the first thing is working with the pen tool. The pen tool puts points down, and the first points that I can make are just straight kind of diagonal lines. Right now it looks a little odd because I have a fill and I'm just working on a line. I'm just working on a path. So if I want to turn my fill off, I click to make it active, and I can hit that diagonal line that says none, and all of a sudden I just have my stroke being active. If I want to turn off my dash line, I just turn my dash line off, and now I just have a basic line with some points. I can then use my white arrow tool to go and edit my points. So I can adjust the path this way with my points. Okay? If I want to make a closed shape, and that's desirable because then I can fill it with something. So we can just make a funky shape like that. There, it's closed. I'll go back. When I want to come up, I have to go back to my first point. And when I click on that first point, you'll see there's a little circle shape underneath my icon. Right? There's nothing. As soon as I hover over it, I get that little circle shape, and it says anchor. So then I can click and it's closed. That's when I can fill this with something like a color. So I have my little color window there, so I can fill it like that. The tool palette has housed in it, or the pen tool has housed in it, these different tools. So all you have to do is go and click on that right bar, and it releases the pen tools, all the different tools that make up the pen tool suite.